What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. As I look back on that day, I can hardly reconcile the shock of what unfolded with the proud confidence I felt moments before it all unraveled. My twin brother, Micah, and I were on our way to the National Youth Science Showcase in Washington, D.C., excited and ready to take on the world as we sat in our first-class seats, a surprise gift from our CEO dad. But the thrill quickly faded into disbelief as we faced an all-too-familiar reality, the sting of discrimination. Phased the moment we stepped up to check in, I could feel the scrutinizing stares. A white passenger ahead of us received preferential treatment as we were interrogated simply for showing our IDs. Despite having TSA pre-check, I was singled out. And when flight attendant Lisa approached with her condescending tone, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Are you sure those tickets are legit?" she sneered, her words laced with doubt. Our attempts to assert our rights met a wall of indifference. But this wasn't just an inconvenience. It was the ugly truth about how we were seen. Just as security arrived, ready to escalate their aggression, our lives changed in an instant. Our dad, Elijah Turner, stepped in, commanding the room with authority. In that moment, as the crew gasped, I felt a strange mix of relief and embarrassment, realizing that our privilege shielded us from the worst. But what about others who wouldn't be so lucky? The drama unfolded, spectators divided. But as we were escorted back to our seats, a sense of regained dignity washed over us. Moments later, we took off and my mind raced. This incident was a stark reminder of the realities faced by countless others. If I've learned anything, it's that every voice matters. We must share our stories, engage in conversations about equity, and strive to create a world where everyone belongs. "Take excuse me, boys," the flight attendant, Lisa, sneered, her eyes narrowing at the boarding passes in Micah's hand. "Are you sure you're meant to be in first class?" "What do you mean?" I shot back, indignation bubbling. "Our dad booked these tickets. See, you might have the wrong flight," she interrupted, her tone dripping with disdain. Micah clenched his fists, glancing at me, struggling to hold back his frustration. "Look, we have pre-check. We shouldn't even be having this conversation." "I don't think you understand," she quipped, smirking at the other passengers who shifted uncomfortably in their seats, all eyes on us. "It's not my job to play along with your little game." "Allergic," I exclaimed, heat rising in my cheeks. "This is our chance to compete at the National Youth Science Showcase. We deserve to be here." Before we could protest further, two security officers approached, broad-shouldered and imposing. One rested a hand on his taser. "What's going on here?" he barked, his eyes scanning us like we were criminals. "I'm just trying to board a plane," Micah replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Why are we being treated like this?" Both of us stood there, the weight of humiliation heavy in the air, as we felt the eyes of the cabin on us, some sympathetic, others judgmental. Then, like a bolt of lightning cutting through the storm, our dad, Elijah Turner, appeared. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was calm, but the authority bound within it cracked like thunder. "Sir, these boys," Lisa began, clearly rattled. "They are my sons and they belong in first class," he asserted, every word laced with power. The panic among the flight crew was evident as they exchanged looks, fear overtaking their arrogance. With a heavy sigh, relief washed over us. Micah's hand found mine, and for the first time in the last 10 minutes, I felt like we were no longer invisible. Micah and I sat proudly in our plush first-class seats, the luxury of the moment made even sweeter by the knowledge that our father had booked this trip for us. It was our first time flying, especially like this, on our way to the National Youth Science Showcase in Washington, D.C. The excitement coursed through us like electricity, painting our thoughts with dreams of success. But as we approached the check-in counter, we noticed the looks. Judgment wrapped in skepticism. A white passenger ahead of us had been treated with an efficiency that seemed foreign to us. Our IDs were scrutinized like they held hidden secrets. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks when the TSA agents pulled me aside, though I'd shown my pre-check status like a badge of honor. It was odd, surreal even, to feel like we were in a world where we didn't belong. Then came Lisa, the flight attendant. Her tone dripped with condescension. Her questioning of our tickets made our stomachs drop. We replied, trying to maintain calm, but our frustration grew under the weight of her doubt. Just as Micah started to explain who our dad was, a looming presence, security, interjected angrily, positioning themselves like guard dogs poised to pounce. I watched as they approached, fear stretching out in the aisle like a dark shadow, and my pulse raced. As Micah spoke calmly, trying to reason with them, the energy in the cabins shifted. Whispers spread like wildfire among the passengers, some sympathetic, others curious, and a few judgmental. The eyes of those around us flickered, revealing the ugly truths of bias buried deep in society. That was when the door swung open, and Elijah stepped onto the plane. His authoritative presence changed everything. The sudden tension cracked like glass. "What's going on here?" His voice cut through the chaos, unwavering. The flight crew's faces paled. They straightened up, recognizing the gravity of who stood before them. In an instant, all eyes shifted. The realization that their actions were now under scrutiny seeped into the air. Their backs hunched as they retreated. The security personnel, once aggressive, took a step back, deflated. Relief washed over Micah and me, but a new layer of awareness bubbled up. Watching our father, the CEO of Monarch Airlines, command respect just by existing was both reassuring and deeply unsettling. Would this have ended differently if he hadn't been there? As we settled back into our seats, the atmosphere remained charged. The incident hung in the air, a painful reminder of the thin line between dignity and humiliation we had tread today. As we prepped for our flight and our science showcase, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling of unease. The journey through those clouds felt different now, framed by the stark realities of just how fragile our place in the world could be. Tech Micah took a deep breath, feeling the tension in the air as they faced the flight attendant again. "Our tickets were booked by our dad and we're supposed to be here," he said softly, but the firmness in his voice surprised even him. "I can't verify that. You don't look like first-class passengers," Lisa replied, crossing her arms, her disbelief palpable. The words stung, but Micah held his ground. "Look, I know who I am and where I belong. Just check the system." Across the aisle, a couple of passengers leaned forward, their expressions turning from passive to concerned. "Hey, they're just kids. Let them sit," one man murmured, and it felt like a small win, a whisper of support that sliced through the tension. When security arrived, their aggressive stance made Micah's heart race. "You need to comply," one of the officers warned, hand hovering near his taser. Micah met the officer's gaze, channeling every ounce of confidence he could muster. "We haven't done anything wrong." And cup people fiver scrimption. This is snot to build to Ren. A freshen Aladins provides of the teachers of Gorsing. Prupa Levi's working a one fear of all this in cupping on the world. And matching in this process as has, that it's DBD we hand, on my fresh revised is supported. Even these warrants that are for my fresh and crabs. For the song table surrounds Siki Afe, asked of it past, only our mother. Even one methods, in the country Nasher, you find with 88 proud and a deuce and some death, without hire to goods, I now, in our methods without song hours sit they hid. And I half a get to the Nasher, protected from the hours from the longs 500 senem, and they arse. Even their one process in groups, protected from intelentry, you never fee on that song. At the year above Alagus and methods out of, one love the year above is you methods intelentry. To tonely and remain a methods colder and very part of its style. Inciting about the original concepts of original parts of all, in very fire worse like too, we lost in adopted two city dogs. Our field, I made budget paper, and all with in ministry. And between two bracks, our whole Dale method, our branches and were a voice. He asked, drawing back in methods only our bubble worses wear face, that they very true methods in the air, piecing he's started. He has harmon because of release, don'tly helping what they do. In he helps to do. People from great things do they haven't, yet have a great wade to heating a several dale, our methods into the airway now. Our budget papers a method consone, people know that has in song God, to strength back in the Nashers. And that's strung. Doan that a known-dale methods that could not be really won. He is body's competer to the day. He storm that's brands as in sawing as on with. People free back in inside was buildus. And he is gallant's feature has Nasher firing the year. And brands has aspert, a control that the entire value. The global safety zone often tiles. And he is the most upsetted of a very bastin to happen a method, within the method in tough arm mire and a lost of a hole. And Christy end of the methods will build it. In he cessor face prayer, the global safety zones of off. And he a very daily reverted in people anyway from them another people in sighing. They exchange glances, the thrill of their first-class seats morphing into a cold knot in their stomachs. Bystanders murmur, eyes darting between the twins and the crew. A mix of curiosity and discomfort hangs in the air like a storm cloud. Just as the situation feels like it might spiral out of control, the unmistakable sound of authority thunders through the aisle. What's going on here? Elijah Turner strides in, his presence imposing and electrifying. The atmosphere shifts instantaneously. Irritation transforms into confusion, then fear among the crew. As the CEO of Monarch Airlines, his status hangs in the air, silencing the incredulous crew. She has every right to be here, he states firmly, directing a glare at Lisa. And you will apologize. His calm but steely voice resonates as he commands the room's attention. The twins can barely breathe, relief washing over them as they feel the tide turning. Security personnel, who moments ago had been ready to escalate, now shift uncomfortably, casting wary glances at their commander. Watching Elijah dismantle their previous assumptions is electrifying, each word a dagger cutting through the unjust treatment. The crew's faces morph from arrogance to shame. Small whispers of "I didn't know" ripple through the cabin, an unspoken admission of guilt. Flight attendant stammers, her bravado dissipating. "We didn't mean," she trails off, now wishing she had leaned into understanding instead of prejudice. Micah and the narrator are allowed to return to their seats, a sudden wave of dignity and pride flooding back. As they settle in, a silence reigns, filled with unvoiced apologies and reflections. Even the captain arrives at their row, a hesitant acknowledgement of the incident resting on his lips. He had witnessed the unearned authority that shifted with Elijah's entrance. And their gazes linger, a silent agreement that change must come. By the time their plane takes off, the excitement of the science showcase feels brighter, more significant. They had not only vindicated themselves, but made a statement, one that echoes beyond their small bubble. As the clouds part below them, they find solace in knowing their worth would no longer be dictated by others, a quiet triumph written against the backdrop of challenges ahead. Reflecting back on that day, the weight of the experience lingers. We were two 16-year-old twins, proud and excited, traveling first class for the first time, only to be reduced to a spectacle of doubt and scrutiny. Watching fear and anger flash in the eyes of Micah ignited a flame in me, one that fought fiercely against the injustice unfolding. And then, in an instant, everything changed when our dad walked in, a CEO commanding authority with calm confidence. I often wonder about the lessons learned and how they shape who we are. The bitter taste of humiliation is sweetened by the empowerment of not staying silent. As I sat back down, a mix of relief and reflection washed over me. We had the privilege of being shielded by power, but I can't help but think of those who weren't so lucky. Do you think we would have made it without our dad's influence? What would you have done in our place? Have you ever faced something similar? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments, and let's continue this important conversation about privilege, justice, and our responsibility to one another.